So, hello everyone. Today I have the honor to talk with Martin Balas about sustainable tourism businesses and more specifically about the concept of corporate social responsibility, in short CSR. So, Martin Balas is a research associate at the Biosphere Research Institute. And besides, he also works as a consultant in the field of sustainable tourism. He is a shareholder of the certification organization TourCert, and he's also the author of the chapter Corporate Social Responsibility and Sustainable Business Management in Tourism, which is published in the German book Sustainable Tourism Introduction. So, hello and welcome, Martin.
Hello.
First of all, I would like to express again my thanks that you are taking your time today to give us an insight into the concept of CSR. And then actually, if it's fine for you, I would already like to start with my first question.
Yes, of course. Go ahead.
Thanks. So I would like to begin with a very basic aspect of CSR, which is the definition of CSR. So even though the term corporate social responsibility is internationally well established, there's still quite a lack of an universal definition of the term. So how would you define the concept of CSR in your own words?
Yeah, well, I think the idea of CSR is pretty easy to explain. It means that every business has a responsibility for its impact on environment and society. So if we take this as an idea, it means that CSR basically has a couple of basic principles. And they are, for example, additionality, which means that the measures that are taken, they should not be covered by law, by legal things. It should be a management orientation, meaning that it should come from top management and led by the bottom approach. Then there should be a value chain orientation. So it should cover the whole tourism value chain, for example. And of course, it needs to cover all aspects of sustainability, which we then call the triple bottom line. And last but not least, I believe also CSR is a lot about transparency. So making the measure more transparent and communicate them. So these are basically the main highlights in my point of view. And overall, this means that CSR kind of provides a guideline which you could see as three main levels of a business. So first, it covers the core activities of a business, so all internal processes of a business. Then CSR also covers like the activities of the tourism product, for example. So it covers measures regarding the value chain of tourism. And also then we cannot forget the environmental and social surroundings, which of course are also impacted by the businesses. So maybe then at the end, if we have these levels, these principles and the main idea, we need to ask ourselves regarding CSR, what impacts does the business create and how does the business deal with these impacts?
Okay, perfect. But now, I mean, today when we talk about tourism, we actually cannot talk about tourism without talking about the COVID-19 crisis. So what do you think? Do you still consider CSR important despite the current crisis, or do you think it has maybe lost a little bit of importance? What's your point of view about that?
Well, I would even say that it has never been as important as it is now, because CSR is actually a proactive tool for crisis management and also for business resilience, because it actually identifies the major challenges and opportunities and then acts upon these challenges. And of course, now we have a very special crisis. It could be explained as a shock moment for the whole industry. But still, CSR provides you the tools to act upon the challenges that are now arising from COVID-19, right? So, and then on top of that, CSR also offers you a set of overall values, such as transparency, as I said before, and shared values. So it actually clarifies what stakeholders are impacted by the business activities. And then it aims to kind of maximize the value of these stakeholders. And this is very important now because we see that whole value chains are disrupting through COVID-19. And businesses that are involved with CSR, they know their value chain, that stakeholders, they communicate with them and they are in better contact and can deal with the issues regarding COVID. So I would even state that CSR basically is a form of good management, which we all need now. And it creates basically like a cohesive society if it's applied right and collectively. This is, of course, very important.
So actually now is more than ever the time to implement CSR as a tourism business. And when we say I'm the CIO of a tourism company and I would like to place now CSR within my company, which strategies would you actually recommend first, or what are the strategies you deem most convincing and efficient?
Yeah. Well, as said before, I think CSR should be implemented from top down and then bottom up. So what does it mean? It means that it needs to be a priority in top management. This is the first thing that needs to be implemented. And then it also needs to be perceived as a potential advantage in terms of business success. If this is the idea on the top management, then it's a good way to start. But also we need clear financial and also personal resources to implement CSR measures. So here we come from the bottom up approach, because it's a very cross-sectional field, right? So it cannot be kind of situated in one administration. It rather needs to be like put in a cross-sectional department, like an executive department, in order to stay flexible and to kind of have the perspective of the overall business strategy. And then also it needs to include all of the departments of the business. Yeah. And this can be done by kind of appointing a CSR committee or working group, whatsoever, a green team. There's many names for this. But these groups should represent all operational departments of the business. They should come together and discuss all of the sustainability activities.
Okay, perfect. So, and during the implementation phase, what barriers have you so far observed? Were there like some challenges which a lot of companies actually have to meet? What are like the difficulties for tourism companies in implementing CSR?
Well, actually, to be honest, the most common barrier I always perceive is basically the wrong implementation of the core principles of CSR. This means that some enterprises don't really take it as serious and don't understand, or rather understand it as a voluntary action on top of the regular business activities. For example, setting up charity programs or fundraising activities. But that's not what CSR is actually about. So because, as we said, CSR needs time and it needs effort. So it should be a clear positioning and it should also be reflected in operational costs and also be reflected in operational charts. So it really needs to be integrated in the business. And then there's another barrier I see, and this is rather more holistic, I would say, because I see a very crucial barrier in the missing governmental support for CSR. Because CSR activities are mostly voluntary activities, right? But this should also be backed up by funding possibilities, and also bureaucratic barriers should be low as well in favor of CSR activities. So basically, we need to boost up CSR also by governmental legislative measures. And then there's a third and maybe even most problematic issue, which is we also need to think about new price instruments that actually tell the truth of the product. So also including the social and the environmental costs. So let's take, for example, CO2 of travel. So if we would integrate the cost of emissions in the travel packages, for example, and if this would be encouraged, then every tour operator basically would try to produce their travels as emission-free as possible. So in order to keep the prices low, right? But I believe this, of course, is a very long journey to go, and we're definitely not there yet. But we need this transparency in the price policy as well in order to make CSR more efficient and more effective.
I understand. And well, so far we have talked about the tourism sector as a whole, but actually if we take a closer look at the hospitality industry, which CSR activities and measures do you consider particularly important?
Well, first we need to say that the hospitality sector has a strong place-based focus. This means that a lot of measures can be implemented by the entity itself, so by the hotel, for example, itself, in order to reduce its impact. That's why a lot of measures in the hospitality sector focus on internal processes such as energy, waste, water management, food management, but also human resource management, and also the architecture and construction planning of the buildings. So these are the main measures which are mostly place-based. However, of course, there's more to it. As you say, CSR is a holistic concept. We also need to take care of the suppliers and the local partners that also play an integral role, of course, in this sector. So the purchase of organic, fair trade, and local products, for example, but also the cooperation with initiatives. They are all very crucial. If the benefits of the tourism activities in hospitality sectors also should be spread amongst more beneficiaries, basically.
So you have now mentioned also the suppliers and the local partners. I think this is also a vital part of tour operators, right? That they consider like their entire value chain and what is important concerning this and how to implement sustainability there. So I mentioned at the beginning that you also work as CSR auditor for the consultancy and certification organization TourCert. And it, among others, also certifies tour operators. So why would you say, or do you say that the implementation of CSR by tour operators is also very important?
Yeah, you mentioned it totally right. So tour operators are very interesting regarding CSR because they integrate basically every stakeholder involved in the tourism value chain. And then they produce these involvements as a tourism product, right? So they choose a destination, they select and contract suppliers, and then they also act between or as links between travelers and suppliers. So this is very interesting. And then additionally, their impact is not on-site as in the hospitality sector, but they are very spatially distributed. So products can be all over the world from tour operators. This makes it very important regarding like an overall CSR perspective, I would say, because CSR measures that are taken by tour operators, they basically influence so many other actors in the tourism industry. And that's why it's very important to also include CSR within tour operations.
Okay, so we have like next to the hospitality industry, the tour operators are just as important and just as, let's say, they just bear a real responsibility as well to implement CSR in the entire value chain. And also, I mean, for example, Studiosus also goes even beyond and also asks their suppliers, their own suppliers, to incorporate social responsibility and also, again, their business partners. So it's like the entire network that a tour operator finally has is quite overall and quite a wide network.
Yeah. Exactly. They even studios, if you mention them, they even work together with their suppliers in order to develop new CSR measures. So it also creates a very good connection between the tour operator and its supplier, which of course the tour operator depends on.
Yeah, a very interesting aspect also of CSR, I think. So, and before we talked about TourCert, which is a certification organization, as I said, a German certification organization. When we talk about the certification process, what are, from your point of view, the main challenges concerning certification systems themselves for tourism business? So what are the main problems that we have concerning the current state of certification systems? And again, on the other side, what would you say are the most important benefits they bring?
Well, let's start with a couple of challenges of certification. I believe the main challenge is basically the imbalance between the large number of certification schemes and then their low market coverage. So, especially in Europe, we talk about a jungle of certification systems, and it's very hard to overlook. If you take some studies, we're talking about 150 certification schemes of sustainable tourism in Europe alone. And at the same time, most of the schemes do not hold more than a couple of hundred certified businesses, some even less than 100. And this is, of course, too low because it doesn't really create a financial stability within the schemes. And of course, it cannot create a public awareness regarding certification. So that's not really what certification aims for. Also, there is a high range of different quality standards of these individual systems. So we made a study here at university, and we saw that just a few schemes are actually implementing standards such as GSTC or other ISO standards or ICO standards, which are more like process-oriented standards of checking the certification processes. And also some schemes are not really transparent and do not really present a criteria. And this is, of course, not very good, and it creates a jungle of different schemes. And then we do not really know if these schemes are actually effective, if there's such a diversity. That's a big problem. If we talk about the benefits, we still have to say that there are clear benefits that come with certification. Because certified businesses, they are able to create combined benefits. So these businesses, as we see, they often improve their processes. They increase their service quality. They reduce their costs for water and energy, for example. And also they gain new competencies within the business. So they can combine different things with implementing this certification scheme. And also we see that businesses report better economic performances and also increased employee motivation when they are certified. So overall, I would say certification can give guidance also for customers, and they can also create a better image of individual businesses, and then, of course, on the sector as a whole. But in order to kind of create this awareness, we need more certified businesses and we need more robust schemes in the next years.
Okay, so let's say as a tourism company, I would like to be certified for my sustainable engagement. I still have to inform myself quite well because there's so many certification schemes. But actually taking, for example, the GSTC standard, it can help me to like find serious certification standards which are internationally recognized. And also in that case, I receive some benefits. So actually there are some challenges currently, but still I also receive some really great benefits. So it's actually worth also thinking about a certification as a tourism business. So unfortunately, we have already reached the end of our interview, but however, I have one final question for you. And actually, I would like to ask you for a brief outlook on CSR. How do you see the future of CSR implementation by tourism businesses? What will be important issues in this field from your point of view?
Well, thank you. Well, to be honest, I actually believe that CSR needs to evolve in the next years. Even though the concept has been known for quite some years now, there hasn't been such a big implementation across the overall tourism industry with clear results. So the concept is known and it's being applied within let's call sustainability-oriented businesses, but we need a stronger emphasis on the overall sector. And we also see this, that there will be a new European guideline on this, on CSR, and it will be published in the next 1 or 2 years. And I think this will create also a new boost and a new discussion about CSR. Also, we need to learn, of course, from the challenges in the past, we just discussed a little bit, and also take into account recent developments, of course, also regarding COVID-19. And then we need to link CSR even stronger to overall sustainability aims, such as the SDGs we have not talked about now in this short time, but there needs to be a stronger linkage towards the SDGs, also regarding CSR. So basically, businesses, I would say, they kind of need to switch their strategic approaches regarding CSR. So we need to talk more about sustainability values within the businesses, and then talk about the measures and the products businesses are taking. So it's kind of a vice versa approach, which we maybe are looking forward in the next years. And there's already a name for it. So it's called CSV, Corporate Social Value. And it kind of turns around the CSR perspective, especially when we talk about the focus on charity and additional programs, because it first takes a look at the sustainability value of a business and then implements measures regarding these sustainability values. So maybe to put it simple, the question basically of how do we minimize negative impacts needs to be replaced by the question of how do we create thriving livelihoods buy our products. And if we do this, I think CSR is on a very good track and will have a very great future also. But there needs to be an involvement in the next years. And I'm very positive minded and I believe this will come.
Yeah, it definitely sounds really interesting and also very exciting what will come up in the next few years or in the next decade concerning CSR. Let's hope that many tourism businesses realize that CSR is crucial for their business and not only for their business, but for the entire environment. So thank you very much, Martin, for your time and for this really interesting insight into the concept of CSR. I'm very happy that you had time today to talk with me about it, and thank you very much again.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. Bye-bye.
Bye.